Here we go. Talking money today. Talking money. Talking old school rap music. One of my favorite times was the late '90s, 2000s hip hop music. I'm a former DJ. For those of you who didn't know that, once a DJ, always a DJ. So, um, Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G. obviously had that song back in. I think that was 99, 98. I think I was still in high school. So throwing it back uh, to those times. So the topic I want to talk about when it comes to money, and the reason why I say mo money, mo problems is because people in general tend to always want more. From a money standpoint, we always want more. I'm no different than you. Um, but the topic really comes to how have we changed? Do we have the same financial issues even as we make more money? So if you're young, even if you're 20, in your mid 20s, you've only had been in the working career for a few years. Even if you compared yourself to back when you were in your high school and college days, you probably have a lot more money, a lot more disposable income than you did back then. Me, I'm in my early 40s. I'm fortunate enough to have a lot more money and make a lot more money than I did back when I was in my early career. But sometimes I catch myself thinking to myself, am I really dealing with the same stuff over and over again? The more money you make, it still feels like you're living paycheck to paycheck. Do you ever feel that way? I mean, I know I do sometimes. I know I definitely have for the most part of my life. And it just seems like money burns a hole in our pockets. Like as soon as we get it, we spend it. And like why is that? Why is it that like as soon as we have something, we have to find a place to go put it that is a consumptive place. Maybe it's not even a consumptive place. Maybe it is a savings account, and that's good. But for some reason, there's still this feeling that we don't have money or we don't have financial freedom. And that's a real problem because even if you have money, even if you have more than you had before, we can tend to think that we don't have as much as we have, or we don't have the security and the protection over our own wealth and our own well-being. And that can actually lead us to make poor decisions. It can actually lead us to think, oh, um, I don't have financial security, so I can't take that next risk. So I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he was looking into this job interview, and it was making a little bit less money, but it was a startup, and there was an opportunity to potentially have some equity, maybe make more money in the long run. So let's drop this example here. Let's say that currently you're making 125K a year, and let's just call that all in with bonuses and everything. And then you have this potential, let's call it the opportunity of a job that is going to pay you a base salary of, let's say, 100K, but potential incentives to make you 150K. Now, let's say this. Let's say that um, it's a startup company, which means it's new. There's definitely some risk. Like, is this company even going to survive? So let's say this is a company. This company has stability. This company is, I don't want to call it risky. Let's just call it um, unproven. But we're sitting here and we're saying, okay, there's two things I want to talk about here. One is just how do you analyze these two different opportunities? What you have versus what you might could have. But then also this mindset of mo money, mo problems, which is do I have any security to even take this risk? So let's take this person's example, and let's say that this person has actually been working for 10, 15 years, and they've got money in the bank. Let's say they've got $100,000, $200,000 in the bank, safe retirement savings, but they've been smart enough with their money to say, well, I can afford to take a risk because I have some money in the bank. So here, let's shrink this a little bit. So what allows you to take this risk? So let's say that you're, let's call this security, not savings. Come on, there we go. So let's say this guy got security to the tune of 200K. Now, there's a lot of other factors to consider here, but what I'm trying to tell you is that, well, worst case scenario, what happens? Well, let's say he takes this job making roughly $2,000 a month less. So it's $2K less right off the bat. So let's just assume this person is living paycheck to paycheck like we all tend to do, and he has to dip into some of this savings. And just for sake of ease here, let's say he has to go a full year and dip into that savings. So he loses some of that savings. He's only got 175K in the bank. But suddenly after year one, this job has really taken shape and he's doing really well. And it's a startup. He's also the only couple people there. In 1 year, he's making 150. So 50K plus. So 1 year, you had to dip into your own money by 25K, but at the end of the year, you're making 50K more. And that 50K more goes year after year after year. But actually, in this opportunity, you're in a startup, you're the first person in. I mean, chances are you're going to be making 175, 200, 250, who knows? Your upside potential is massive here. Now, you could lose, this job might not work out. There's a risk there, obviously. So the worst case scenario here is that this same thing's happening. It actually gets even worse, and you find yourself back on the job market. So when you go back into your security, it's not just money. How confident are you in your skills? How confident are you in your skills to take that risk? If you're going into this job, you say, hey, I'm going to take a chance on this opportunity. If it doesn't work out, I tried. I'll jump back into something similar, making that 125K. Worst thing that happened, I lost some. No, not to diminish that money you lost. I mean, that's significant. I'm not saying it's not. But let's go back to this situation and say I'm just going to stay stable. I'm going to stay where I'm at, not willing to take much risk. I got this money in the bank, but I'm not willing to take much risk. Okay, so you're just going to, kind of middle along. You might get some salary increases here. You're still making a good living, still contribute, go on and go for retirement. All right, but what I'm talking about here is the mindset with which this person steps into this situation, right? The mo money, mo problems idea is that if I have security in the bank to take a risk, and I'm entrepreneurial also, let's say all things being equal, like I want to do this. I'm in my mid 40s. It's like, if I'm not going to do this now, when am I ever going to do this? I have built up this nest egg for a reason, just for this reason. Now, some of it's in here for retirement. If you want to be a retiree, that's fine. I get that. But I'm not talking about risking it all here. Not even close. I'm really, in the grand scheme of things, this is like a little over 10%. Okay, it's really not that big deal in the grand scheme of things. To take a bet on yourself, by the way, this is a bet on yourself. So the word confidence comes in here. How confident are you in yourself? Are you scarcity minded on yourself? Or are you abundant minded on yourself? Got to ask yourself that question, because this person here, even though they built up this nest egg, isn't willing to take the chance. Now, let's change this scenario and let's say this person doesn't have any money in the bank. Let's say they only got like 15K of security. That's not really a lot of security. It's a dangerous situation to be in. Okay, so you got to look at what got you here. What got you to a point where you only got 15,000 in the bank after 20 years in the workforce? You're going to find yourself stuck, more than likely. I don't see these kind of people taking chances like this person might. So keep in mind, when I say take a chance, take a risk, I'm actually not talking about taking something that is risky. I mean, it's the wrong word. Risk isn't even the right word. The idea is that you're taking a confident investment in yourself, even if it doesn't work out. Another thing to consider in this situation is it's unproven. So you're analyzing two different job opportunities. In this one here, you're looking at the stability of the company. Here, you're looking at the stability of the person that you're working for. It's probably a one-man show at this point. It's an entrepreneur, fairly new company. You got to look at that guy's track record and see what are the chances. Like, how I'm placing some of my risk in this person if I'm going to work for them. Totally different situation if you're doing it for yourself, right? All right, so let's go back to the idea of mo money, mo problems. We'll take a personal side and flip that into a business. So if you're a business and you're trying to invest money, or you're trying to spend money after you've become successful, you started to make a lot of money, we have got some things together. We've got processes in place. We're doing good. We're making a profit. We've got some good people. And we grow. And we grow. And we start making more money. And all of a sudden, we've got people issues. We've got process issues. And all of a sudden our profit is the same or less. I'm not doing good with greater than or equal than, whatever, at this point. Why does that happen? Why does that happen? We're making more money, but we got more problems. Because we got more people, right? You need more processes. The bigger you get, the more the leaks that you have in your system get exposed and the water starts running through these things. So what got you here won't get you there when it comes to getting to the next level, right? So you got to take a different approach. Now, if we're specifically talking about money and how you handle your money, we'll talk about your accounting systems. You got systems and you got people. When you start your business, let's say you're just one person. If you're just collecting a paycheck, even if you're not starting your business, it's a lot easier to keep track of your money when you're one person making $100,000 a year. It's a good salary, but it's really not that much money to keep track of. You got basic expenses. You're a small business, you got basic expenses. Got one or two people. Got a product, got sales, got cost of goods. Pretty simple. All right? You start to grow. Let's just call these growth expenses. This is a dangerous place to be. Growth expenses are a dangerous place to be because you start looking at things and you start saying, oh, that makes sense. Let's buy that, or let's hire that person because they're going to bring us more money, or another way of saying it, we're assuming we're going to make more money, more revenue because of what we've done in the past. So we better go hire all these people. We better go buy this new software for our growth. So it's the same things that you're investing your money in. And next thing you know, you spent all the money, all the new money that you made, and the revenue and the profit or the expense aren't growing at the same trajectory. So what I'll end with here is you need to be able to track this stuff. You need to be able to track this stuff. Like first, like before the growth. So, time after time, I constantly am working with people who did this too late. They did it too late, and they call me and they say, "Hey, we don't really have an accounting system. We don't really have any people. We have, this bookkeeper who kind of does some stuff. Really, really don't know what she does. We don't really have any data. I mean, we have some data, but we don't really understand it." And it's just like, how does that even happen? I know how it happens because we get excited, we make money, and we want to grow. I get it. I've done the same thing. Been in companies that did it. Right? This can get out of control really, really fast. Really, really fast. So you got to take your growth seriously. You got to take an approach to it that is very meticulous from the planning stages. So you got to invest in accounting systems. You got to invest in people because you don't want to find out that this isn't the trajectory that's happening with your revenue and your expenses. You don't want to find out that revenue is going like this and expenses are going like this. That's a big, 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 big recipe for disaster. You start bleeding cash. If you even have cash, you better have some cash if you're going to pump up some growth. But you better have data, and you better have forward-looking data. Like, you need historical, you need forward-looking. You need to be smart enough to be able to say, oh, this is what I think's going to happen, and then track that against what actually did happen. Because you're not just measuring how well you're doing, you're measuring how good you are at projecting what you're about to do. So that's a big, big, big maturation in a business when you can actually predict how you're going to do when you change things in your organization, particularly changing big things like adding a new product line or opening a new location. These are massive investments that have costs that you're probably going to underestimate. So you have to track them. And you can't do too many of these at one time. Let's say you're opening up a new location. I would not make that location bigger than your whole other operation at this point. It should be a small subset. It should be something where you can go back to this idea here way at the beginning, and I'll wrap this up here. If you've got some security, you can take the risk. But you got to know when to get out. So if you're going to take the risk, have some security and know when you need to get out. How do you know when you need to get out? Well, you set some targets. You have a system in place to track it, and you have somebody on your team that will track it for you. And then you just do what you say you're going to do. That's all you got to do. So just because we've got our money growing doesn't mean we have to have the same problems that we've always had.